Welcome to the Hall of Echoes of the Grand Library of the city of Zahra. This is where reports arrive of discoveries, expeditions, and events already shaping the world. Some are confirmed, others survive only through witness. I am Idris Nahir, Keeper of Echoes. I mark what is known and I name what is uncertain, because silence is also a choice. These are the matters before Zahra. My dear kinfolk of Zahra, the past few days have brought us nothing but turmoil. There might be few of you here for this symposium today with the barricades still standing strong, but I assure you, we and the Guardians of the Vault are doing everything in our power to send word to our allies across the city. You've all had questions about what has taken hold of our city, and I can finally provide you with some answers. We don't know everything yet, but a plague has infiltrated our city. You have all seen the infected roaming around aimlessly, unable to stop themselves from walking. We don't know when the infection began to spread or who first contracted it, but it's rapidly grown. Districts have been barricaded by the Malik in an attempt to control the spread. We have received word from allies in the market district that there have been reports of rioting and looting. Mercenaries and royal guards have been attempting to stop the spread by detaining the infected. Many of them have been killed with their bodies burnt afterwards. I know this is frightening news for us all. Many of us here have loved ones all over the city we have been unable to contact. We are all wondering what's become of them. I'll admit I was hesitant to share this information because I was so worried about the reception of it. But I realized all of you deserve the truth. It's been kept from the masses, and the only way for us to fight this is through knowledge. Right now, I have my theories about the spread of this infection. Before the barricades were put up, I planned on telling you all of a much different plague infecting our city. The Heirs of the New Dawn. I have spoken about them often already, but we have news of something peculiar they've been doing within our city. Recently, it's been discovered that strange glyphs have been carved all around the city's walls. Around these glyphs, the same sigil we have read about so many times, of a book before a rising sun with a storm brewing between. We have kinfolk dedicated from the Guardians of the Vault to understand these glyphs and figure out how to understand the Heirs of the New Dawn's motives. But in the wake of everything they've done, I can't help wondering if this plague could be their doing too. But again, this is only a theory of mine. It could be related, or there could be something far more sinister brewing in the underbelly of our city. Or it could perhaps be something as simple as a misdrawn glyph that has infected the minds of many. We're hoping to have answers soon. The city deserves answers. I would like to issue a special thank you to the peoples of the city who have been rising to the occasion to help kinfolk in need. The Dwarven Labor Union, as to be expected, did not back down when they were told to shelter in place. They saw kinfolk in need and they established safe tents, made sure everyone had food and water. They monitored closely for any signs of the plague in their encampments and protected those who needed protecting. Members of the kinship of the Chimes of Harmony and the Hallowed have done the same. I have heard countless stories of how their monks have fortified their minds against the plague and braved the thick of it to protect the kinfolk of our city. I would also like to issue a special thank you to the bards of the Illuminated Petal. Many kinfolk have sheltered at the petaled stage. instead of succumbing to the panic and fear. The bards have done everything in their power to calm them. I have heard many stories of the improvised performances and theatrics of the illuminated petal have put on, and they have been working amazingly to keep spirits high. If you see any members of these people when, and I choose to say when as I remain hopeful, the barricades are lifted, make sure to give them your thanks. Without them, I feel our city would be much worse off. Now, I plan to begin reading from journals that have been brought to me recently. They're centered on a family that began this containment apart and fought to come together again. We might still be isolated from our loved ones, but I hope this story inspires some hope within you all. From the Journal of Soraya the Unwearied, of the Royal Society, wife of Tariq, mother of Zahir, Amara, and Noura. Today began as any other. Tariq left for the Grand Library at first light. I spent the morning with the children at home. Today I was supposed to visit the Orrery of Insight to help a lesser scholar with some dramaturgical work. They sent word that they had hardly slept the night before, feeling restless and out about the city walking. They felt they would hardly have the mental strength to sit through a lesson and suggested moving our lesson to another day. I have yet to respond, but I am always happy to take a day away from the orrery and stay home. Though sometimes I forget how rambunctious my children can be. Zahir has been frantically looking around for a crimson tunic that he swears I've seen before, but have no clear memory of. Amara has been helping him with somewhat of a guilty look on her face. I know better than to involve myself in a lot more of their minuscule interpersonal dramas, but if I had to guess, I would say she knows exactly where that tunic is, and Zahir would not be happy with something she's done to it. After about an hour of looking, she offered part of her own allowance to help him buy a new one. That's definitely confirmation of my thoughts. I said goodbye to them and they went to the market together. Noura is perhaps the most restless of them all, but I can understand that. She is only 8 years old and the entire world is new to her. She is learning her letters, figuring out basic math equations, and endlessly fascinated by every person she meets. She has an erudite quality about her that I remember when I was her age. That's why I joined the Royal Society to begin with. I can easily see her following in either myself or Tariq's footsteps and becoming some sort of scholar. Of course, that's not to say Zahir and Amara won't. Tariq and I have gone out of our way to foster their minds, but they seem more keen on social dynamics and martial prowess than anything. The day began beautifully as I sat on the rooftop of our home alongside Noura. The air was crisp, and the sound of the waterfalls trailing along the side of our building lent to me a deep sense of calm. I have always loved spending time in our garden. Seeing the birds fly overhead, nesting among the eaves covered in greenery is beautiful. The Al Qudra district is always so lovely this time of year. While Noura was studying her letters, I happened to notice that one of the glyphs that I had carved into the side of our house to draw water toward the rooftop had been damaged by a growing ivy root. I left her at the table to practice a sentence while I went to quickly fix the issue. I stood by the edge of the roof and looked out at the streets below for a moment. The roof was high enough that I could barely make out the words kinfolk were saying, but I could see a crowd forming. Streets were being blocked off by massive stones. I watched as the Malik's own guards moved them effortlessly before locking them into place. The actual stones were nearly twice the size of the guards, so I immediately realized that to move them as easily as they were, some sort of dramaturgy was implemented. Crowds were gathering as the guards fended kinfolk off, making sure they did not cross the paths they were blocking. I could hear shouting, but I could not make out a word of it. Noura was growing concerned at the table, so I went back to her. Not knowing what was going on, I brought her inside immediately. When the Malik's guards are going around trying to control crowds, that can't be a good sign. And if they're creating a blockade, that's even worse. I was starting to grow worried. Tariq was gone at work, and Zahra and Amara were both at the market district. I needed answers, so I sent Noura to her bedroom and went outside to seek them. The first kinfolk I saw was my neighbor, Ila of the Storm Shapers Collective, Chaser of Lightning. Ila is an older woman, having retired from her service with the Storm Shapers years ago. In her retirement, she has taken to trading secrets much like the Horde Keepers. She always has a sense of what is going on. I spoke to her and tried to gain any understanding of why a blockade was being built up, but she was as clueless as I. It only made my anxiety grow. Together, we walked the streets and tried to gain any information we could. We heard several stories. Some spoke of a possible Morvac invasion. Others thought that an attempt was made on the Malik's life. Either way, the guard was intent on blocking off the Al-Qudra district in its entirety. I approached one of the guards and told him my family was still out there, that my children were in the market. I pleaded with him to let me leave temporarily to retrieve them and bring them home. He gave me no answers about what was happening and told me there was no way he could let me pass. He said the risk was too dangerous. I have no idea what risk he is talking about, but I can't let my children stay in the market while something is happening. I have to bring them home, and I am lucky enough to know a way to do that. If the guards won't let me go, I'll just have to move without them knowing. From the Journal of Zahra, son of Soraya and Tariq. I'm writing this journal now crouched inside one of the storefronts in the market. I can't even begin to understand what happened. But if there is one thing I've learned from my parents is that we must always document these things. The Horde Keeper offering us shelter, Nasir, doesn't know I've stolen a notebook from him. I intend to pay him, of course, but all the scarab shells I brought was spent on a new tunic. Amara doesn't have any either, but then again, we were able to secure shelter here through a bit of knowledge I shared of my mother's work with the Royal Society, so perhaps there is another way I can offer to pay him. As the oldest son, I know it is my duty to make sure Amara is protected. She is frightened right now too. Both of us are confused and worried about our family. I had only just purchased a new tunic when Amara noticed something strange in the distance. There was a crowd forming, and everybody within it was anxious. Kinfolk began running like they were racing to get somewhere I did not know. I barely managed to grab Amara by the shoulders and pull her out of the way before she was trampled by a frantic crowd. When the crowd finally began to disperse, I saw the guards. All of them were setting up blockades, and rumors began quickly spreading about invasions and assassinations. Through all of these rumors, no answers were given, but it became clear that something was being contained. I just have no idea what. Kinfolk began running at the stalls. Fulgurite and scarab shells were being tossed around as if they meant nothing, and the hoard keepers in the market were marking up prices, seeing a clear demand. The first bit of violence occurred when someone stole some spiced meat from one of the stalls. It seems that in everyone's panic, all morality has been abandoned. A fight broke out, and to call it anything less than a riot would be wrong. The guards had to step in and calm everything down. Amara and myself watching horror the entire time. As soon as things settled down, I grabbed her hand and began searching for a way out. The only thing that I could think of was that we needed to get home to our mother, or to the Grand Library to our father. But the market district was completely blockaded. No way in and no way out. We started wandering the market, trying to think of what we were going to do. As we did, I began to notice something strange among the kinfolk around us. It seemed as though they were walking in aimless patterns. There was something frenzied about their movements, like there was a place they had to go, but just could not get there. I felt a familiar itch in myself seeing it, knowing that I wanted to return home but could not. But something about the way they carried themselves was different. Amara asked me what they were doing, but I just guided her away from them. It almost seemed like they were taken hold of by some sort of lunacy. I figured it best we stay as far away from them as possible. That's when we encountered Nasir. He was in the middle of shuttering the doors of his storefront when I approached him. He is an older wormling, and his dragon familiar even seemed to be of an old age like himself. I don't know many hoard keepers personally, but I've heard that they are some of the most cunning among us with their desire for secrets. But he seemed to have taken pity on us, which I am grateful for. My mother is very involved with the Royal Society, so I gave him a small piece of information about a project they're putting focus on with spirits. I don't know if that information is particularly secretive or even useful to him, but he let us into his shop and closed the shutters behind all three of us. He is completely unaware of what is happening as well, though he did intend to try to find out. For the night, Amara and I are going to be bunkering down here. I don't know what is going to happen, but I am not planning on getting a wink of sleep. I have to make sure I am on guard in case the situation in the streets goes awry, which I have a nagging suspicion it will. From the Journal of Tariq of the Royal Society of Zahra, Spirit Commander, husband of Soraya, father of Zahir, Amara, and Noura. I did not notice the library's doors were sealed until I attempted to leave. When I emerged from the vault with the artifacts I intended to study back at the Orrery of Insight, I could feel the shift in mood around me. The librarians all spoke in whispers, and the tension was thick enough in the air that it felt like I was underwater every time I breathed. Nobody wanted to answer me when I asked for someone to let me out so I could return to the orrery. No kinfolk even dared make eye contact with me for some reason when I asked what was going on. All of us were just instructed to take a seat and wait for further instructions. I was surrounded by scholars and idealists who were just as lost as myself. To exist in a moment where the most learned among us are utterly dumbfounded is somehow more terrifying than anything I have ever encountered. My first thought was of my family. They would want to know where I was, and I tried to think of some way to send word to them. But as time passed sitting idly at the dimly lit tables of the Grand Hall, I started to pick up pieces of information that stuck with me. The first, and most important, was that this lock-in seemed to extend far beyond the library. I overheard two guardians of the vault speaking quietly about witnessing from the top of the library different sections of the city blockaded. That news spread like wildfire through the library, and everyone was discussing the possibilities of why. The most popular theory was that Morvac seemed to have some sort of invasion plan. But I did not quite believe that, considering they would be less likely to lock us in than have us ready our arms. I witnessed some of the Guardians descend into a room among themselves alongside one of the Malik's guards. Right away, I understood that they were having some sort of hidden discussion. They had information they were not willing to share with the rest of us, and I was intent on getting it. I excused myself to the latrine and focused on my time agora. I called upon a spirit I've held for years of a feral cat who I witnessed expire after having a litter of kittens. Noor, I've come to call her, might have been scraggly and aloof while she was alive, but her spirit has been nurtured by me for years. She has always been adept at hiding in the shadows. I communicated the mission with her, letting her know that she was to get into that room and allow me to listen through her ears. It was of the utmost importance that I understood what was happening and how to navigate the situation. I stayed in the latrine as she maneuvered her way through the library. I could hear the quiet conversations of everyone speculating on what was going on before she snuck into the room. I don't think any of them saw her. Even in the private room, the conversation was hushed. The librarians, as well as the Malik's guard, clearly did not want anyone to overhear their words, but I did hear them, and they sent chills through me. The blockade did not start because of invasion plans. Rather, a plague had spread. One far more difficult to contain than any virus that has roamed the streets of our city before. Apparently, this plague was first noticed in a few individuals throughout the city. Their symptoms seemed to be akin to restlessness and mania, individuals who were unable to quit walking. It seemed as though they had somewhere to go, yet they could never reach it. They walked every spare moment they could, and moments they were unable to, they grew frustrated. These same individuals have reportedly been sleepwalking through the city as well. Family members and close friends of the sick individuals soon began noticing the same restlessness in themselves as they put patterns together of their loved ones' activities. Nobody in the room said the words, but I knew what this meant. We were dealing with a mimetic plague. I immediately thought of Brightwater, once a glorious city with a thriving population that was destroyed entirely by something like this. Now it sits abandoned, with few even willing to venture into its depths to study all it has to offer. The idea of something similar befalling Zahra sent a powerful wave of nausea through me. I could almost perfectly visualize all of our kinfolk being taken over by this irrepressible urge to walk, ignoring all of our kinfolk functions like resting and eating, and eventually expiring in the streets because of exhaustion. Zahra is a bastion of hope in Aporia. To lose it to a plague would be detrimental to kinfolk all over the realm. I thought of my family, my wife at home with our children, completely unaware of the potential destruction that could envelop us. The moment I realized what we were up against, I made the decision to leave. Getting through the blockades and barriers is going to be difficult, but I'll find a way to. I have to. From the Journal of Soraya the Unwearied of the Royal Society, wife of Tariq, mother of Zahir, Amara, and Noura. I had been waiting for an opportunity to escape the district all night. Ila kindly agreed to watch Noura for me. leaving her alone, albeit with a neighbor that has known her since the day she was born, terrifies me. But I cannot leave two of my children alone in the market. I don't know what the rest of the city is like right now, but I can only imagine the market district, being as full as it is chaotic. From my rooftop, I've seen how the Malik's guards have been watching over the blockades constantly. Even when one guard leaves, another is there to take his place. I have hardly been able to take my eyes off the blockade closest to my home, and there has been no opportunity for me to sneak past. On top of that, I have seen strange things in these streets. The crowds have mostly dispersed, with every kinfolk being ordered to quarantine in their homes. The kinfolk who happen to be here but don't actually live in the district have been treated unkindly. Not many are willing to let strangers in their homes in uncertain times like these. So the streets have filled with dozens of kinfolk sitting anxiously along the cobblestone. Despite the orders to stay in our homes, plenty of members of the Dwarven Labor Union and the Kinship of the Chimes of Harmony have been offering food and blankets to strangers. In spite of the chaos unfolding, I find it to be heartwarming. But still, I could not imagine risking my own life for the strangers when my own children need to be tended to. But then again, I was never cut out to be among their ranks. As the hours went on, unusual things began to catch my eye. Kinfolk would leave their homes and begin walking. It seemed as if they were being guided by an unseen hand, something pulling them in a direction they had no control over. They walked in circles, straight lines, and looped around constantly, creating some sort of pattern. I found myself growing curious, eager to decipher what it might be. I saw one woman walking with her eyes closed toward the side of someone's home. I almost wanted to call out to her to stop her as she walked directly into a brick wall. I expected that to awaken her in some way. It did not. Instead, she stumbled a few feet backward and walked forward again. She continued doing this until the front of her head was bleeding crimson down onto her nightgown. Kinfolk in the streets noticed her injury and rushed over to help her. Many shook her shoulders as if they wanted to wake her up, but nothing would drag her from her slumber. It became clear to me that whatever was happening, it was not usual sleepwalking. There was something controlling her mind. It became clear to me then what was happening. That woman, coupled with all of the other kinfolk aimlessly walking in their own unique patterns, means there was something happening in our city. I have studied grammaturgy long enough to know what a mimetic plague is. Of course, the aristocrats of the city knew these things long before the common folk. If an outbreak has spread as it is here, then it's bound to be rampant in other parts of the city. Especially areas like the market that are always overcrowded with kinfolk. I felt a moment of sheer panic as I thought of my children stranded there. Could something like this take over Zahir and Amara's minds? They would not have the slightest idea what was happening. When I realized what I was up against, I immediately went to Ila's house and told her. I'm sure that Malik did not want information like this spreading to the public. The last thing the city needs is a mass hysteria. However, from my understanding of these types of plagues, they spread by observation. The more kinfolk outside witnessing these strange walking patterns, the more will be susceptible. Ila is a known gossip, and by telling her, I'm sure she can get word to anyone in the district. Plus, I need her to know that this is what I am fighting against when I go to rescue my children. I said goodbye to Nora, giving her a kiss on the forehead that she immediately wiped away. She does that every morning when I wake her too. I felt a tug in my heart telling me to stay, that she needed to be protected. But how could I leave Zahra and Amara on their own? I grabbed my dagger, knowing that nothing would keep me away from my children. We are supposed to be under quarantine, and if any kinfolk tries to stop me from moving, I am not afraid to use it. From the Journal of Zahra, son of Soraya and Tariq. The morning light did not bring with it any peace. I don't know if I expected answers or some sort of resolution to these problems, but I felt a distinct disappointment. Nasir was gone when we woke up, though he did leave Amara and I a sweet roll from his own stores alongside a note advising us to stay put. Amara is growing restless. She might be old enough at 13 to understand some things, but the situation was far beyond belief for her. All she wanted was to return home to see our parents and Noura. I felt the same, but I had to put on a brave face for her. We played games for some portion of the morning. When we grew tired of those, I told her stories of expeditions I'd read about in father's tomes. Amara never really cared much for them, but it served as a good enough distraction. I wanted to do anything to distract her from the chaos we heard in the streets. It was hard for us to see through the shutters, but we could hear the sound of rioting. I could almost envision the kinfolk running over each other, stealing, hoarding goods because no one knew how long this blockade would last. Every so often, we would sit close together, every muscle in our bodies rigid, as kinfolk banged upon the outer walls of the building. Thankfully, Nasir had everything locked tightly. No one managed to breach the walls, but we knew that in no time it would happen. Nasir came back around midday with news. As expected, chaos unfolded in the streets. Members of the Dwarven Labor Union, the Hollowed, and the Kinship of the Chimes of Harmony were attempting to keep everyone calm, but failing. Still, he told us there were encampments set up on the outskirts of the market that seemed more peaceful. He even suggested that the three of us attempt to go together. I could sense in his words that he was afraid. I tried to stay brave, but I could see that it was affecting Amara. We agreed that we will spend the night here, but if anything happens, we'll head towards the Kinship of the Chimes of Harmony encampment. In the morning, Nasir will take us there. From the Journal of Tariq of the Royal Society of Zahra, Spirit Commander, husband of Soraya, father of Zahra, Amara, and Noura. Getting out of the library was a feat in and of itself. The Malik's guards have been watching the gate closely. I might not be as experienced with grammaturgy as my wife, but I know how to use spirits to my advantage. Noor was helpful in learning about the plague, but I knew I'd need something bigger to leave. Years ago, when I was on my first expedition beyond Zahra's walls to see an unraveling land for myself, I encountered a Banu Ari with their rock, Anka. They were both badly injured and far beyond saving. I managed to anchor Anka's spirit. I've rarely had an opportunity to use him. Living in this city with my family has forced me into a much tamer life than I was when I bound him. But now I have the chance. In spite of how harrowing this event is, I find myself getting a little bit excited. The librarians had all been careful to make sure we stayed seated and calm, fielding all of the questions we had with pre-planned answers to keep us docile. The first opportunity I had to get to the roof, I took it. It was the second day of our containment within the library. Everyone had been growing restless. There was hardly any food to go around. We were hungry, exhausted, and all of us wanted to go home to our families. The sun had set, bringing an end to a day of worry. An argument broke out between a scholar from the other's hand and one of the librarians. This caught the attention of the Malik's guard and everyone else trying to keep us at bay. Of course, when the scholar was apprehended by the Malik's guard in order to quiet her down, others jumped to help her. I knew that in a moment's time something bad was going to happen. The Malik's guard was going to do everything in his power to ensure the peace was kept, and if that meant using force, so be it. But I did not stay around to find out. I snuck away as quickly as I could, creeping through the darkened halls of the library. The chaos in the grand hall was bad enough that I was able to get to the rooftop with relative ease. I manifested Anka, feeling my body weaken at the expense of it, and climbed onto his back. My heart was pounding in my chest as I felt the air whipping around me. It had been years since I was in the sky like this, and even then I was sharing a rock with a member of the Banu al-Ri. From high above the city, looking down, I could see the chaos. I saw the violence. I saw all of the barricades and containment. But what struck me the most was how I saw hordes of kinfolk roaming aimlessly. They walked in circles, following each other, bumping into each other. There seemed to be no rhythm to their movements as they all traced their own steps. But as I flew higher, I could see a pattern. Their bodies wormed their way in some rhythmic fashion to create a sigil. The moment I saw it, I averted my gaze, flying lower to hide it. Mimetic glyphs have a way of infecting the mind when they are observed. Seeing the glyph, interpreting it in my mind would mean exposing myself to the plague. Then I would be walking aimlessly just like the poor souls below me. The lower I flew, the more disheartened I felt. I was getting closer to home, but I could smell burning. I could see the chaos unfolding around me. I knew that the Malik would order that the plague be contained at all costs. With no known cure for mimetic plagues like this, the only thing they could do to stop the spread is get rid of those already infected. I thought about my family as I flew toward the rooftop of our home. Had any of them been exposed? Or was I going to see my entire family killed in the name of keeping a plague at bay? I felt my stomach turn as I landed. It was no better, as I was met by silence inside and the smell of smoke thicker than it was before, as if it were closer. From the Journal of Soraya the Unwearied of the Royal Society, wife of Tariq, mother of Zahir, Amara, and Noura. Walking the streets of the district had never been so terrible. I intentionally kept my gaze lowered to the ground to avoid making eye contact with any of those I thought were infected. Walking close to them, I'm positive that I am correct assuming this is a mimetic plague. It only fueled my desire to find my children as quickly as possible. They'll have no idea how to operate a situation like this. Neither do I, but I have more information than them. Not only will it prove useful, it could save them. I kept my dagger firm in my grasp, hidden under my coat. Getting through the barricades was going to prove the most difficult part of my plan. I'd have to get to the market district, moving through areas that I've not been able to survey like this one. I felt confident initially that I would at least be able to get out of the Al-Qudra district, but whatever was waiting beyond that was unknown to me. My first step was Al-Qudra though, so I focus on that. As the blockades were under constant surveillance, I needed to find another way. I was planning on doing that as I was walking, and an opportunity presented itself. The Malik's guard had begun their containment of the plague. I watched them grab kinfolk from the circles they were walking in and drag them into homes. Those infected did not put up any fight as they were killed. I could smell the smoke in the air as the bodies were burned. It all happened so quickly, I could hardly make sense of it. I felt the devastation weighing me down, but I had to fight through it. My own children were trapped in the market with potentially horrible things happening all around them. The more I thought about it, the more I worried they would succumb to the same death at the hands of the Malik's guards. I would not let that happen. Using my dagger, I etched a glyph into my arm that would protect me from flames. I made my way into a burning house, holding my breath the entire time. It was hard to see, and the smell of burning hair and charred flesh was nauseating. It's not something I ever thought I would have to encounter, and I hope never to again. The home I chose was strategic. After looking at the blockades from my rooftop, I saw that this home seems to be positioned in a prime way. The front door was on the outside of the barricade, while the back was on the opposite. It might have been burning, but it proved to be my only way out. I was coughing by the time I made it to the back wall, where I quickly carved a glyph in the wood. A moment after the glyph lit up to show me that it had worked, a doorway opened, revealing the other side of the barricade. I stepped out as quickly as I could, clawing at my throat and coughing with a desperate need for fresh air. But the moment I opened my eyes and saw what waited on the other side, I felt sickened. More of the infected, dozens more than were in Al-Qudra. The new doorway appeared and seemed to immediately register to all of them. An entire crowd of them turned toward me. Their eyes were closed and they were groaning under their breaths as their feet carried them mindlessly. Many of them had scars all over their bodies from walking into walls, trying to cover the invisible path set out before them. I narrowly jumped out of the way before the entire horde of kinfolk were on me. They did not care about me, they just saw a pathway to complete their goal, whatever that may be. As I contemplated what to do, I felt a strange urge overtake me. I wanted to walk, like it would soothe a part of me by doing so. I felt myself wanting to get pulled into that crowd of mindless wanderers. I immediately knew what that meant. Something about their walking pattern had registered to me, and this plague saw a role for me. It wanted me to join the rest of them. I would not let that happen, not while my children were alone and scared. I still had my dagger. I fought the urge as hard as I could while I took a deep breath and brought it to the skin of my cheek. I did not know if the glyph I carved would actually be of any help, but it was all I could hope for. It was something I read ages before as I was reading about the Brightwater tragedy. A small glyph that could protect against any force seeking to control the mind. The pain was sharp, and I reminded myself the entire time that it was necessary. When I finished the final portion, I felt the tug in my mind easing. A relieved smile covered my face, but fell a moment later. At least I had a way to navigate the crowds without succumbing to them. I could only hope that my children had stayed safe so far. From the Journal of Zahir, son of Soraya and Tariq. Nasir has been acting strangely this morning. We have all been locked away for 2 days. It's the third day of whatever this containment is and we're all growing restless. But Nasir seems so much worse. It seemed like he could not stop pacing. Like something was troubling him and he wasn't able to forget about it until he was walking. The walking seemed to soothe him. He was not eating, and whenever I tried to get him to sit down and rest, he ignored me. He'd forgotten all about our agreement to get to the kinship in the morning. I don't know if Amara and I will be able to make it without him. Whatever is happening in the city has gotten worse. There's more sounds of arguing, and all throughout the night kinfolk tried breaking into the shop. It was only a matter of time before they succeeded. Amara and I knew we needed to leave as quickly as possible, but we did not know what's happening out there. We did not know how to get to the kinship camp without Nasir. Amara grew more worried with every passing second. She was frightened and I wished I could do something to comfort her, but I couldn't. I am barely managing to hold myself together anymore. I knew that she was looking to me for guidance, but I'd given her all I could. About midday, Nasir stopped pacing. It was sudden enough that it caught both my and Amara's attention. As if he was receiving some sort of communication, he nodded his head and approached the door of the shop. Both of us jumped to our feet as he opened the doors and walked out, leaving us completely exposed. The kinfolk in the streets, desperately searching for food, goods, and shelter, immediately ran towards the shop. They did not care there were two kinfolk already inside. We were a minor inconvenience in their eyes. I held on to Amara tightly as I braced her against the wall. A crowd rushed in, all pushing and shoving each other, screaming at the top of their lungs for loaves of bread. It took everything in our power to squeeze through the crowd without being trampled. What we saw in the streets of the market nearly made both of us fall to our knees. Dozens of kinfolk dead on the ground. We did not know how they got to be that way. What happened to them? If someone was guilty of hurting them intentionally, many of them looked like they'd been trampled over. Some of them had clear wounds from swords. We could smell smoke in the air. It was as if all morality had left the city. Amara was crying and I was fighting back tears of my own. I just told her to cover her eyes, and I guided her away from the carnage as quickly as I could. We saw more crowds of kinfolk walking, and I started to panic, thinking they might be rushing toward us. But then I noticed Nasir among their ranks, seemingly happy to be walking around the crowd. They seemed to be tracing some sort of path together, but I could not figure out what. Some kinfolk spotted the two of us and yelled for us not to look. I whipped my head around to see a woman in plain gray robes. I have never personally interacted with any of the Hollowed, but I realized that's what she was. She asked for us to follow her, and I did, not having a better option. She was nameless, as all of the Hollowed are, but she guided us to an encampment where the Hollowed were working alongside the kinship of the Chimes of Harmony. It was much quieter, and I did not see anyone aimlessly walking. She led us to a barracks where a number of heavily armored kinship were carefully watching kinfolk they had seated on the ground. She told us we would have to undergo a brief quarantine just to make sure we were not infected. I did not know what she meant, and she explained everything. A plague had broken out in the city. All of the details were unknown to her, but what she did know was that many kinfolk were dying. A plague had taken over their minds, and the Malik was doing everything in his power to contain it. That meant all of the infected were being killed. She made it clear that one infected person among the ranks of this encampment could ruin them all. Amara and I sat down to be quarantined. But I saw kinfolk walking. I was right next to Nasir as he paced for hours in the shop. Could I be infected too? From the Journal of Soraya the Unwearied of the Royal Society, wife of Tariq, mother of Zahir, Amara, and Noura. I had been traveling through the city all night long. My body was weak and heavy from exhaustion, and all I wanted to do was collapse in the street and close my eyes. But the image of my children terrified in the market kept me moving. My face is scarred from the glyph protecting me from the plague, but I am thankful that I made that decision. I have been able to move freely without worry. In fact, if I can get this news to some of the aristocrats that it can be used to protect others, the barricade might end. Something similar might even be able to help those who are already infected. But as selfish as that may be, it's a secondary priority. My arms are just as scarred as my face now. Every glyph that I've made to cut through the parts of the city has been with my own blood. My entire body was shaking by the time I made it to Union Square. I don't have much knowledge about healing. My grammaturgy work never covered that. Even though my body was on the verge of collapsing, I knew that soon I'd be back with my children. There was only one more barricade to get through before I would be in the market district. Walking through Union Square, I could see that the intensity of the outbreak seemed bigger here. It was a more populated area than the Al-Qudra district. The plague must have spread faster and the devastation was even worse. I started to wonder if this plague could be something that destroys the entire city. Is it something that we'll ever recover from? The amount of kinfolk we're losing now is truly devastating. I tried not to think about what this could mean for my children. With the amount of kinfolk that have succumbed to this plague, the odds of them doing so were high. I had to remind myself countless times that my children are smart. They might not know how to use grammaturgy like I do, but they have wits. Tariq and I have made sure of that. As I approached the barricade of Union Square, I could sense that the Malik's guards were more militant here than anywhere else. The moment they saw me covered in blood and staring at the barricade, they reached for their weapons. I tried to turn around to make myself seem like I was not a threat, but they must have thought I was infected. They approached me with their weapons drawn, ready to end my life. I tried to tell them that I was not infected, that I was just looking for my children, but they did not listen. Nothing I said seemed to make them back down. Tears formed in my eyes and I saw a future for my children where they were raised without me. Where I was needlessly slain by the Malik's guard operating on an order to kill any infected that approached them. I thought so hard to get to Union Square I could feel my children close. I had to get to them. The first guard approached me and held his sword in front of me to plunge it forward into my chest. I moved out of the way, my dagger firm in my hands as I sliced into their side. They let out a yelp of pain and I saw it catch the attention of the other guards nearby. That should have been enough for them to realize I was not infected, but they did not stop. The second guard was right behind me with their sword raised as I dropped to the ground and sliced the tendon of his ankle. He screamed and buckled forward as blood spurted from the wound. The other was on me in an instant and I held my dagger up as he crashed into it, his eyes going wide as the small blade settled into his side. He grit his teeth and froze for a moment as the pain overwhelmed him. I used that opportunity to wiggle away from him. The wound itself would not be lethal. I knew that just from the sight of it, but he would have serious injuries to recover from. I could not concern myself with that. I had a mission. I ran toward the barricade, slicing the palm of my hand deeply to gather blood. I quickly scrawled the glyph in the barricade to open the pathway. The moment the doorway opened, I saw another of the Malik's guards standing on the other end. I gripped the dagger tight in my hand, knowing that the moment I let it go, I would be accepting death. I closed my eyes for a brief moment and thought of my children. For them, I would fight. I am sorry, my friends, but I must step away for a moment. It seems the symposium has caught the attention of the Malik's guards, and they're asking for me to step away. I will be back shortly to continue the saga of this family's adventure throughout the city. Well, it seems we have upset the Malik. Our gathering is too big and the guards have threatened to use force to disperse it unless we end our symposium promptly. While this is not how I envision ending our gathering today, I promise you that I will make sure you all hear how this story ends. Within these journals are the information I believe is dire to share, but more importantly, I know that it might bring you all some hope in these trying times. I'll send word as soon as we're able to meet again. But until then, be sure to stay away from the infected and stay safe. This account is now entered into the record of the Hall of Echoes. Some of what you have heard tonight is confirmed. Some remains disputed. All of it has been preserved because silence too alters the future. Yet what reaches the Hall of Echoes is only part of the story. Beyond these public accounts, private conversations continue among those who keep watch over Zahra's future. Those who wish to step beyond the gallery may join these conversations through the library's public ledger at patreon.com/echoes of Aporia. Choose your place among Zahra's many peoples. Hear what the public is not meant to hear. Take part in the conversations that shape which stories endure and which are forgotten. Notes from these symposiums and information about our world can be found in the realms of Instagram, Facebook, and Blue Sky. And if this account proves worth remembering, carry it with you. Share it with others. Repeat it faithfully where knowledge is needed. The hall exists so that truth may travel further than silence. I am Idris Nahir, Keeper of Echoes for the Library of Zahra.
No return, no brave stay, no new homes where third sides play, no great heroes, no last stand. Leave the place, take who you can. First you watch and second you go. Third you never choose to know. The world warns soft before it screams. It eats the bold who miss the seams. Those who listen live and tell songs of places that fell to hell.